Well, thank you everyone for joining us. Welcome to our Women in Science and Healthcare March event. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Jovelyn Castellanos, and I help lead the Women in Science and Healthcare Network here with Lindsay Settles, who is also on this call. We'd like to begin by thanking our supporters. Women in Science and Healthcare Network is a Health Wildcatters initiative, but we'd also like to thank Lyda Hill Philanthropies, Texas Health Resources, Biotech at Pegasus Park, and UTD for their continuous support. This network is designed to support women in science and healthcare who have an interest in an entrepreneurial venture or are current founders. In prior years, we have held Wish hackathons that have brought together like-minded women and finding solutions for healthcare solutions or innovative approaches. The Wish Network is a continuation of that type of support for women who wish to launch a healthcare-related startup in science or tech with the support of Health Wildcatters. The current Wish Network was established back in August 2022 that has now a community of over 200 to 250 women in science and healthcare who have engaged or attended our Wish Network, either in person or virtually. This past year, we had a variety of speakers, including Dr. Lauren Toira, Maddie Heck, Dr. Lindsay Harper, and many more. And today we have a very exciting guest speaker who I'm very excited to learn from her today. Today we have Andrea Lisbona, founder and CEO of Touchland. Andrea is a millennial entrepreneur who's disrupting the personal care industry with Touchland, an innovative brand blending fashion and skincare. Inspired by great design, Touchland elevates routines into self-care rituals. Since its 2018 Kickstarter campaign, which reached 450% of its goal and garnered over 1,500 pre-orders in a month, the brand has thrived, landing distribution deals with major retailers including Ulta, Sephora, and more. With a celebrity fan base including Kim Kardashian, Kate Hudson, and more, Touchland is redefining everyday luxury. Andrea is originally from Barcelona and relocated to the US in 2018 in order to manage the growth of Touchland from the US. She currently lives in Miami with her husband and Chippy and Coco, their beloved schnauzers. In her spare time, she networks with other female entrepreneurs to share resources and advice. Andrea, thank you for your time as you share your entrepreneurial journey with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start off with just quick two stats that I found, which were really interesting when it comes to your industry and just in general. 65% of adults reported using hand sanitizers in a non-work setting up to 4 times a day, according to a study by Nature in 2023. The hand sanitizer market is expected to grow by 3.82% between these next 4 years. I'd like to just begin by for you to allow us to learn a little bit about your journey with your background, and also if you can talk more about Touchland and your journey so far.
Sure. So I started Touchland many years ago. I started in 2010 in Barcelona. My goal, inspired from companies like Apple, Dyson, Nespresso, that have taken commoditized industry, the lack of joy, the lack of excitement, and through design and user experience, have really transformed the perception, getting people excited to do something, to use a product. And so we wanted to do that for personal care. People don't look forward to certain things. And our personal challenge was, how do we transform that perception? We started the journey distributing other products. We distributed for 40 years other hand sanitizers and talked to a lot of users. What do you like? What do you dislike? And everyone said the same, like, it's just very bad for my skin. It rips off my skin. It's very drying. I have to keep a hand cream with me all the time. It smells like tequila. And so, having learned that, we really put our brains together to create something that really blended a unique form factor and design that really enabled people to find in it like almost like a lifestyle accessory, and then beauty forward formulations, and ultimately adding very cool fragrances that trigger that sort of moment of happiness in your day. We started in Europe, but in 2018, we decided to move to the US and launch in the US market. The reason why we did it is because US, there's a reason why people say there's the American dream, and that's a reality. Like, Europe is not very open to innovation, and it takes a lot of time for people to be willing to try new things and all that. So I appreciate very much how the American market received us, because we launched, as you were saying, with a Kickstarter campaign that it was fully funded in 24 hours. It ended up being 450% funded. And we started creating this community of people that has been pushing and propelling the brand organically. Once people discover the brand, they want to share with their friends, with their family, and this has enabled for us to grow the brand and really secure very unique distribution that not many people can achieve, which is being at Sephora, Ulta, and Target with our brand. And I originally, as I said, and you can say by my accent, I'm from Barcelona. And the reason why I decided to be an entrepreneur is because my father was an entrepreneur. He was the real example of what an entrepreneurial journey is. He started very small. He grew very big. The European crisis came. We lost it all. So you can see, like, at the end of the day, that running a business is like a cycle. It goes up and down. There's never like going eternally up. There's always challenges. There's always problems. There's always obstacles. So I truly grew up appreciating like what it is to build something, to see it growing, to face challenges, and really stand up again every time that you fall. And that's why when I finalized my graduate and MBA program at the SADE, and then I did a fashion design course, I decided to jump into the entrepreneurial world immediately. And that was, again, it's been an amazing tough experience with a lot of sweat and tears, but also there's been a lot of rewards that make it worth it all the way.
Absolutely. So entrepreneurship runs in your blood, basically. That's incredible that your dad. So you kind of saw that entrepreneurship in your father, and just seeing all of the resilience and grit that comes with becoming an entrepreneur. Can you share any takeaways or any lessons for women who are on this call currently that are trying to find an innovative idea or an innovative product that are in the ideation stage, or potentially just kind of wanting to find that product that they want to launch?
Yes, I always say when you have to be an entrepreneur, you have to be entirely convinced of the reason why. Like, there's a lot of people that want to be an entrepreneur and find an idea. Maybe they are not convinced, but they want to work to make it happen. It's such a challenging journey, and you're gonna go through hell. That you better have an idea that is worth fighting for, and you don't have to rush it. I don't think, like, when you want to start a business, it has to be something that you take the time. I always say I like to spend a lot of balcony time, really seeing things from perspective, listening to people. I think, for example, Kickstarter was a great market validation tool for us, because sometimes, like, entrepreneurs can have false assumptions. People need this, and then you take 2 years to develop something, you put it in the market, and it doesn't work. So it's a mix of gut and data, where you're never going to have a data for something that doesn't exist. That's where gut plays in. But you have to be reasonable enough to talk to people to really see, is there a need for that? In our case, like, it was obvious. Like, if I'd rather wash my hands with water and soap than use anything else in the market, because I'm a sensorial person. I appreciate experiences, and that was not giving me a good experience. So I think, how can we create something that blends delivering a great experience and a function at the same time? So I think when you want to start something, find that reason why. Find that reason why, that you're going to wake up every day knowing that for every victory that you have, you may have 10 obstacles to go through, and you have to be relentless. You have to persevere. You have to fight against everyone thinking like, I told you so, it's not going to work. Because again, I started in 2010. I was 24 years old. It's 1/3 of my life, and we are becoming a little bit successful now, but I can guarantee you, for the last 10 years, it's been 14 years of journey. I would say for the last 12 years or 11 years, everyone said, it's like, she's crazy. Like, why don't you consider doing something in parallel? And I stick to my guts, and I continued my journey, and that takes a lot of moral and strength to combat all the outside noise. So I think it's always important to find that reason why worth fighting for.
Well, be convinced, extremely convinced of your why. That's really great, a great takeaway from what you just mentioned. And with your gut and data, it's scary as well because you, like you said, there's not any data, but you have to go by your gut and the why of why you're finding your product or your brand or your company. So thank you for sharing kind of like your background and your story. Moving into like that product development and what that looked like, could you share some insights into the research and development and how you identified consumer needs and to inform your product innovations? I know you mentioned sometimes there might not be that data present, but how did you handle that and how did you kind of launch that research and development phase of Touchland?
Yeah, so we started again. We always like to be surrounded. There's a sentence in Spanish that calls "zapatero a tus zapatos," which means shoemaker to shoes. In our case, we wanted to surround ourselves by experts in every single matter because ultimately, like when you're an entrepreneur, you cannot know everything. So you got to make sure you really find partners that are going to support you in your journey. I'm a design lover, so I spend a lot of time really learning on how design works, not just how it looks, but really how it triggers that consumer behavior that they really appreciate holding in their hands. They really want to use it. So we studied a lot, like how Apple designed products, like what were the parameters of design that they created this. Then we work with labs to develop our formulas. We partner with perfume houses like Givaudan to create amazing uplifting essence for our formulas. So it's been like a teamwork because ultimately when you want to do something big, you have to surround yourself by the MVPs in each industry. And that's how we created it. And there's been iterations like in design and packaging and all of that. And I think you have to be capable also to understand the needs, and should you have to change something, don't be scared of changes. Like we changed the secondary packaging in a few years ago, and it definitely made a difference in retail to really pop up in shelves. So it's really about understanding that sometimes like maybe your initial concept had to be iterated, and that doesn't mean that you failed. That just simply means like every company that it has to evolve over time.
Wow. So, and that must be hard, right? Like the whole process of not going with that initial concept and kind of iterating on that initial concept. But as you said, being surrounded by those experts and by experts in the formula and in that development process is really important. So thank you for sharing that. And now moving into the functionality and design. I know you said you had a background in design, and how do you approach the product development to that aesthetic? Because we know Touchland is a beautiful packaging, the product. How did you approach that with your background and the experts that you had alongside? And what were you thinking whenever you were trying to understand the consumer?
Yeah, so one of the things that when we were doing that research phase on design, one of the things that we found out is most companies utilize something called the golden ratio, which is the divine proportion. It's in nature in many things. And so it's basically the proportions of Fibonacci on like, it's a very like nitty gritty thing, but I'm passionate of design. So one of the things that we have everyone in our lives that has golden ratio, that has been with us for many years, is the credit card. Like, and that's not something that you walk around the street and you say, oh, that's a golden ratio logo, oh, that's a golden ratio card. But it is something that there's a lot of studies behind how the human eye reacts to the golden ratio, like creates that sort of pleasing understanding of the shape and the design. So we implemented that in our product. So if you put that in this shape, it's actually a credit card shape with the radius and everything. So we spend a lot of time with that. Our design has been like that since 2014. So that was something that we created 10 years ago, and we have never changed because we really wanted to create something that again was outstanding, unique, like, and it's recognizable. Like if you pop that into a screen, people know that it's a Touchland product. Of course, we have experienced, unfortunately, a lot of copycats over the last years. We have patents in many countries, and we have been able to enforce around 2,000 patent infringements, which
Wow.
that was very challenging. We utilized an artificial intelligence software that enabled us to enforce our IP in multiple marketplaces and all that. So it was kind of like an automated, because 2,000 cease and desist, it's very complicated for a company that is starting. And that has been, again, through our journey, not just with the product, with the packaging, with the colors. Like it's very sensorial as a brand, and we think of sensorial approach in everything that we do.
Wow. I love that. I never knew the golden ratio rule or that concept. So thank you for bringing that up. I definitely need to research that because that's so interesting. I wonder how many other golden ratio things are around, but that's very interesting. What scientific principles did you leverage? And I know you kind of discussed a little on that, but to leverage to create your Touchland products. I know the golden ratio was back in 2014. What other things have you applied when it comes to like the formula or things that you've noticed in that process?
So we work with labs that are experts in the matter. So we work with, like right now, with a multinational that develops our formulas. We have a global compliance team to develop that. So we created a formula that, again, had the content of alcohol. We did all of the testing, and they've been assessing us through the process to make sure that we're always in compliance. So that was
Wonderful.
the part that we partnered with a multinational that had a very big compliance team to support the brand in ensuring from the formula creation, the testing, and all of the compliance and regulatory is in place.
Wonderful. Thank you. And in this fast-paced world of consumer goods, how do you stay abreast of scientific advancements or any advancements related to your industry and incorporate them into your product lineup?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the monograph of our category is not final. So again, that also kind of sets the precedent of not having still a final monograph in place. I think right now for the brand, one of the things that we've been doing is incorporating, we're beautifying personal care. So for us, the innovation comes from identifying areas where we can take care of hands while, again, having the functionality. So one of the things that we did launch in 2022, we launched our revitalizing formula, which had elements that take care of your skin. We recently launched the Gentle Mist, which is an ultra soothing formula that contains an hypoallergenic fragrance. So our goal is to really dedicate ourselves to create beauty forward solutions. And that's where we've been innovating and making sure that we tap into this audience that really does not just want to function, but they really want to not sacrifice their skin while doing it.
Yeah, that's really important because I know there's also some hand sanitizers that you put on and they dry out your skin. So the fact that you're also taking these like personal care components of hand sanitizers and all that, it includes that, that's really important. So thank you for sharing that. Now moving kind of more into that entrepreneurship and female entrepreneurship, I'm going to start off with the challenges that you have faced and how you carved out your niche. Can you talk about some of those strategies that you employed? I know previously to our live fireside chat, you talked about some of those challenges and how having that courage to step into that fear, because not everything turns out the way you envision it whenever launching yourself into entrepreneurship. So can you share about those challenges, how you navigated them, and also how you carved out your niche?
Yeah, so I can start with how we carved out the niche, and then, of course, being an entrepreneur, I always say I never celebrate anything, because one moment you're celebrating, the next moment you have a fire to extinguish. So it's a constant mix of feelings. But I think for us to differentiate, you cannot only disrupt the product. So we knew that if we wanted to change a category like Nespresso, change the coffee industry, we had to change everything. So that went from distribution. Again, when we started selling our products, we were the first brand that was selling in prestige beauty. Actually, it was very fun for beauty buyers asking, like, "Are you sure, like, that you like we're a beauty player? Why are you selling this product here?" And so we really told them, like, we really want to blend that sort of beauty into this category and really excite a lot of people that really is looking for like a beauty forward experience. So we, again, targeted different distribution channel than any other player in the industry, and we went into Sephora and Ulta We sold in Bloomingdale's. We sold in a lot of places that you would not expect to find these products. Another thing that we did is promotion. Like, I think we wanted to be relatable. We didn't want to be a brand that tries to drive people to use the products by fear. I think that's how most personal care brands try to sell, through fear. And like, this has so many germs. It creates such a feeling for the consumer of not wanting to live life and not interact with the world. And for us, we wanted to create something that people was excited about, like sanitizing their hands and being like touching the world and being excited about it. So we really changed the marketing approach to make sure that we could reach an audience that was looking for a more positive, not fear-driven marketing. And then I think, like, ultimately we really put it in the market, and then the community just responded in a way that not even in my best dreams I would have imagined, that they would be like celebrities, and so many people just saying like, I never thought I would be obsessed with a hand sanitizer, but here I am. And so I think that's the beauty. Like, we receive a lot of letters from kids that love the brand and all that, and they just never wanted to use hand sanitizer because they didn't like it. So to be able to see that we've been able to really expand, like Nespresso expanded the coffee industry by really blending in beauty and design and all that into a category, it's been amazing. And I think in terms of challenges, we've experienced a lot of challenges. I think for us, like the fact that we started in Barcelona and we had to make the decision to move to the US, it was so challenging because I'm very familiar. I'm Spanish, so we're very attached to the family. And so for us to realize that if we wanted to do something in life, we had to leave. That was one of the biggest sacrifices that we had to do. And then raising capital was a very tough process because no European investor was interested in a business that was leaving to another country. And then American investors were concerned, like, hey, you're still not here. So how do I know that I'm going to invest and you're going to come? So we were in the middle of the waters with that. And we ultimately were able to find a partner that believed in us. And they said, Andrea, I want to be part of your journey. And he said it's one of the best decisions, if not the best, that has done ever. And so it was tough because we were looking for capital, I would say, for over a year. And we found this investor almost in 24 hours before leaving. So that was, again, movie material. And then we experienced all sorts of challenges. We experienced a supply chain shortage that left us without product for 1 year. So it's been, you tell me, I think, like, running a business, it's just it's tough because it's a lot of things can happen, like, and you want to grow the team, but you have a lot of challenges going on every day. So it is I always say, for every good news that we have, there's always 5 fires. So the proportion is not at the same level, and there's always something that you need to tackle, or there's something that is going to put your attention. And I'm very vested. Like, I am the kind of entrepreneur that I'm in bed, I forgot about something, I send an email at 1 a.m. to myself to not forget. So it is definitely, I have in my family, for example, my brother was raised also in my family, and he has a job. He gets to see his kids at 6 p.m., doesn't have this sort of anxiety that I have for the rest of my life, checking emails and all that. So it is definitely a toll that it has to be worth it. That's why I said it's so important to find the purpose, because if there's not a real purpose and you're doing it for the sake of being an entrepreneur, it's, I think, mentally not many people can handle the challenges that you're going to go through.
Yeah, and I think in our, like I said before, starting our fireside chat, you had mentioned that sometimes whenever there's nothing going wrong, you're like, what is this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that. I know, going back to your point of like the way that you've allowed the brand, right, Touchland, to be more of a pleasure, of like an experience, right, a positive experience for the consumer, and just seeing how it's a natural, organic marketing, just seeing all of that. I've always enjoyed seeing the different creativity with your team, and that the innovative trends that you guys use from social and marketing. How do you how do you continue fostering that culture of innovation within your company, particularly in that product development and just in general with your company and your teams?
Yeah, so I think like I always tell my team, you gotta take risks. I
Mhm.
think taking risks sometimes helps you. Change is good. Change allows you to grow. Over the next 18 months, we've been working on two other categories that have nothing to do with hand sanitizer on the personal care space. And we're thrilled about it because we really want to be the brand of owning the real estate of personal care on the go. And that really like I open my bag and everything is Apple, my AirPods, my iPhone, my iPad, my MacBook. We want to be that for personal care on the go. And so we've been working over the last years to create other two categories, and we're super thrilled because it's been a lot of work and a lot of scrapping everything that we had worked for a year. It's not good enough, and so I try to foster that culture in the business of leading by meritocracy, and that's something that I always said. Everyone has a voice. I don't. This is a title-less business in the sense that for me, everyone has the same value of opinion. I always challenge my team whenever they provide like an idea or something to back it up, like to have a rationality behind everything that they present. I think there's a lot of companies that grow with like a lot of middle management that has this culture of I say so because I say so, and that's one of the things that I fear the most because it ends up killing the creativity from everyone. And I want to create an environment where everyone, doesn't matter the department, like if my finance person has an idea about marketing or my marketing person has an idea about product development, I want to create a safe environment where someone can drop crazy idea and don't think it's crazy, and maybe that's an amazing idea, and not having the fear that they need maybe fired because they propose something crazy. I think creating an environment for cross collaboration and meritocracy and allowing everyone to feel safe taking risks, it enables a brand to grow faster and healthier.
I love that idea of that, leading with just allowing everybody to input their ideas, regardless of what team or your expertise is. I don't know if you've heard of the Medici effect, but it's basically taking concepts from, people that are different industries, and, that's where some of the most innovative breakthroughs happen. So I love to hear that that's a culture that's fostered within your company, Touchland. Um, talked a little bit about, how there was at one point, there was a whole year with there was the supply chain, you didn't have the material for your product. And looking back at how COVID-19 perhaps has reshaped consumer behaviors and priorities, how has Touchline adapted to these changes, and what lessons have you learned about resiliency and agility as a business leader?
Yeah, I think when we started Touchland was with a very noble goal that had nothing to do with COVID. I don't think keeping your hands clean should be tied to a pandemic like that. Again, enabled people to be more aware, but it also created, I would say, PTSD effect that a lot of people relates keeping your hands clean with a pandemic, which I think it's the whole opposite idea of what hygiene should be. And so, for us, when the pandemic started, we knew that this was something temporal, and so we as a brand, everyone challenged the team on like how do we make sure that we're building a brand thinking 3, 5, 10 years from now, because most of the businesses, I mean, it was the wild west. It was everyone launched hand sanitizer. Everyone, doesn't matter the industry that they were in, fashion, everyone. I think for us, we knew that this was going to be insane. It was very unfortunate because it damaged a lot of things. It damaged like retailers were flooded of hand sanitizer that didn't sell, and so therefore they didn't want to take any hand sanitizer anymore. So it created, I think, the opposite of what people expected it would create, and we had foreseen that this would happen because again, it's not sustainable to think that an industry is going to be growing like that. It was again something very very unfortunate for the society and for everything. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that we were there for people after that we would not remind people of a pandemic, but we would be a partner to build great adventures for the future. So that's how we operated, like making sure like we even implemented a lot of things during the time. One of the things that we realized is that people was reselling, buying in bulk and reselling our product at that 10 times the price. So we implemented techniques to block people to buy a certain amount to make sure we would be able to offer our product to everyone and not people that was trying to make profit out of it. We tried to do as many things as we could to survive that time. And then we relaunched the brand in August 2021 when the category was decreasing by 6% and retailers were flooded. That's when we were able to relaunch our supply chain. And we found a world that didn't need hand sanitizer, and retailers were like, no, we don't want to take any more hand sanitizers. So we were fortunate enough that we asked, just give me one tiny bit of space to really show you that we're more than a hand sanitizer, that we really can bring people excited about this. And so we went from, again, having a very small space at Sephora, Ulta, and Target to nowadays having end caps in Sephora, side caps in Target, and they gave us the chance and gave us the opportunity to demonstrate that, and we will be forever thankful because it was not easy. The data said the opposite. Why would they take the risk to bring in Touchland?
No, it was definitely, like you said, some people had, PTSD or trying to use hand sanitizers, but the fact that whenever you started this brand back in 2014 or 2016, it was more about that it should be part of your personal hygiene, and that's just an everyday type of use. I know giving back to you is important in your company. Can you tell us about your charitable initiative, Touch Lives, and all of the things that you're doing in that charity philanthropy space?
Sure. So we've been kind of changing the angle, especially during COVID, of the Touch Life initiative. We initially started partnering with NGOs and shipping product for them to be able to distribute. And in COVID, we started. We're always in social media, so we were approached by a teacher that tagged us on a post and said, unfortunately, I don't have hand sanitizer to receive my kids back in school. And so I bought this from my salary. And that kind of touched us. So we got in touch with her and we're like, hey, we would like to start this initiative to start partnering with public school teachers, shipping them our products and all that. So we've been donating to public school teachers. We have donated, I think, 1 million plus hand washings to public schools and their alums. They send us pictures, super excited about us partnering with them. So, and then we've done specific, for example, in I think it was in Christmas, we donated a large amount of Disney products for kids in hunger organization, so we could distribute during Christmas and all that. So we do a lot of different initiatives, but our goal is to really support public school as a main focus of the initiative.
Wow, that's incredible. And public schools around the nation, or is it also in Spain? And
just right now we only operate in the US.
Okay, wonderful. So we talked a little bit more about, whenever you first started, it took you over 1 year to find an investor to invest in your company. Can you talk about, after that 1 year that happened, how did you continue seeking funding and capital for your company? And what advice do you have for any current founders that are on this call who are in that pre-seed, seed stage of their startups?
Funding is the hardest thing, and I'm not an expert to talk about it. To be honest, I think because I live my experience in my family to be in a situation where you need finance, not finding finance, the greed that sometimes you can encounter when you are in desperate need for funding. I grew up my business making sure that I didn't have to be raising capital, because I think sometimes you can encounter yourself in situations where you are being expected to sell your soul, and that's very unfortunate. And I think a lot of founders have to sign on terms that are unfair just because they need the capital. So I think in our case, we try to grow the business organically, responsibly, very lean, to make sure that we did not have, and I did not have to spend my time fundraising, because I think founders should be growing a business. That's what I can add my value. I think fundraising, it distracts you from what you really need, which is run the business, grow the team, make sure that everything is running smoothly. And so funding is very challenging. And even for companies of success, it doesn't mean it gets any better. So I would say to everyone that wants to fundraise to make sure not to wait too long. Where you're in a situation where if you don't sign, you're going to lose your business, because you may end up having to sign up for things you may regret long term. And I think that's, to me, it's the hardest part of this process, being an entrepreneur, because I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so I know about supply chain and distribution and sales. I know about that, but fundraising, it's a world on its own, and it's so complicated. And some founders spend 95% of their time on that. I just want to I wanted to make sure that I spend my time where I can add value. And I have not done a lot of fundraising. We've been growing organically, just because, again, it's just a very exhausting process. And again, it's like almost like dating. It can be a waste of time sometimes. It can be great. You can find the person of your life, but you never know. So it's I think it's very draining for a lot of founders to run a business and have to, in parallel, go through these processes.
Absolutely. I've heard that a lot as well, with like the finding capital or finding the right investors, like dating, and just from different conversations and panels that I've just heard of. And so thank you for sharing that. And you know, the way that you put that goal into your company of not needing it, just having it kind of is really interesting and admirable. So and as we begin kind of to end our fireside chat, I do want to ask you, what is one thing you wish you knew or would have done differently when you first started out with Touchland?
So I'm a little bit philosophical, in the sense that I always think that everything happens for a reason, and every mistake that I made got me to where I am today, even the worst ones that made me cry and have sleepless nights. So I always think that I would not change anything, just because I think everything that you change can have a butterfly effect. So everything, part of growing is learning and making mistakes, and I think that those mistakes made me the founder and entrepreneur and the CEO that I am today. So of course I would be less innocent. I would try to have plan B, C, D, and E, not believe that everything is going to work out in the beginning. But ultimately, again, it's part of the journey, and I think I made plenty of mistakes, and I always, I think, like, you want to believe in the best of people, and sometimes you get a lot of disappointments, but I think it's part of the journey. And I think as an entrepreneur, making mistakes, you cannot see it as mistakes. You have to see it as you're learning.
Absolutely. It's like live unapologetically and, you know, just embrace the process, because at the end of the day, you learn from it. And also there is the butterfly effect. So thank you for sharing that. And as we open it up for Q&A, I know we have our first question here from Kashika. Kashika, if you're on, you can unmute your microphone, or I'm also happy to read the question out loud.
Yeah, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for your time. I can't tell you how much I love your products. I am obsessed with them. I usually get them in the 3 to 6 pack that they come in, and I'm a big fan of it.
Thank you.
Well, I wanted to ask, so are there any go-to books or podcasts or even subscriptions that you have, you know, just like a list of go-tos that you'd be willing to share that you've learned from?
Yeah. So I'm a traditional person. I love books. So I think every 3 years I read. It's at this point I should already know by memory, but I like Robin Sharma, because I feel like the mental health as an entrepreneur is something that you have to give. You always have to take time to not let this process burn you. And so he has a lot of books that I like. There's one that it's called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And it's about like a journey of growth. And again, it's great to be successful, but also protecting your like personal side, your family, your connections and all that. So I really love that book. He also wrote a book called The Everyday Hero. I love that book a lot, a lot. because it's about purpose and it's about progress, and it's not about reaching a goal. It's that about continuous improvement in life that really big athletes and big entrepreneurs have done. I also like Principles from Ray Dalio. I like that book a lot. And let me see my book catalog. What else am I missing here? My library. Well, recently I read a book from a founder that I admire a lot, Daniel Lubetsky. He's the founder of Kind. He wrote the book of Do the Kind Thing. And I really liked it because I always thought that there's a lot of people that would trade their soul for success. And I've always thought myself, like, am I growing too slow because I have too many principles and all that? And to see someone that has amazing values and principles, that has been able to have such a successful outcome, it gives you hope that you don't need to trade your soul for success, and that you can build things with principles and going to sleep feeling proud of yourself.
Thank you. That's incredible. I'll definitely be going on Amazon and getting those books. Appreciate you sharing.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, me too. I just wrote down all of these books, so I'll be going on Amazon as well. Is there any other questions? Raise of hands. I think I see Caitlin Robertson. Hi, Caitlin. It's good to see you.
I'm here with my 9-year-old. We're on spring
Oh,
break.
nice. Hello.
She loves your product. She
Thank you.
has, how many do you have, Olive?
5.
5 of
Five.
these.
Awesome.
We joined the call together so that we could hear your story, and just know that you're inspiring young women in science too, and not just the older ones. My question for you is around your Kickstarter campaign. What did you attribute its success to? Because there's lots of different crowdfunding platforms and lots of different ways to go about it, but you had a particularly successful campaign. So I was curious if there was any one factor that you felt like really set it up for success.
So I think one of the things that personally I like about Kickstarter is that you set a reasonable goal. Like, if you set an unattainable goal, then it's not motivating for the backers. It's not motivating for you. So we set an attainable goal. And once you attain that goal, then you start putting like milestones. So one of the things that you do is like, and that's why it's a crowdfunding, like the community itself starts saying like ideas for the next milestone that you put. So once you achieve your goal, we said, okay, we achieved this goal. If we achieve this other goal, what would you like? And so people started saying it would be great that you would do a case. So then you start really building, which I think in the last 30 years, marketing has been unidirectional. Like, brands are here talking to the people. And nowadays with social media, like if you do social media listening and you really utilize like crowdfunding campaigns and all that to really listen what people want, it's the best source of market analysis. Because, like, for example, we use it for collaborations, for new sends. Even in Instagram or TikTok, we ask, hey, which should be the next collab? Guess what? The most requested collab, I'm not giving any hints, it's going to happen this year, but we really listen to people. And I think that's what really made our campaign successful. The kind of not just putting an attainable goal that people was motivated to reach it, but also offering like multiple goals and delivering on those goals. I think that there's a lot of campaigns that don't get executed, or people don't end up shipping the product. So that's where you start building that reputation and making sure that you ship on time. That I remember we were not expecting such success. And I think I have a video on my TikTok. We had to pack 1,500 orders with a team of 4 in the warehouse. I remember I had my hands cut with paper everywhere. I think I needed a week to recover after those days. That we were like eating pizza, staying there 8 a.m. till 10 p.m. But it was a really, really good experience. And I think it built this sort of community that a lot of people is like, I'm here since Kickstarter. And that's kind of like a sense of honor that people was like, I believed in you, or this was an idea and we back you up. So I do think that again, being very authentic, not using it just for like the fans, which most company does. In our case was market validation, and really building that community and appreciating the ideas and delivering on those. And thank you so much for owning five. What's your name?
Olive.
Olive.
Oh,
Very nice name. Very nice name.
we're
Well,
on
thank you so
spring
much.
break right now. So she's joining me. We're in Missouri, actually. We're from Dallas, where the Wish Network is located, but right now we're in Missouri. But we had to join this call since she's a big fan of your product.
Appreciate
And
it
now
so
I feel
much.
better about buying it because she's, she begs for it every time we go into Sephora. And now I have, the face and story behind it. So really appreciate
Thank you
your
so
time.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Olive.
Good to meet you, Ollie. Thank you, Caitlin, for your question. It looks like Courtney Reynolds has also a question. So Courtney, feel free to unmute if you have, do you want to say your question, or happy to read it as well?
Yeah, I definitely can. Hi, team. Thank you so much, Andrea, for being here, and love hearing more about your story. I know you spoke to some of the sacrifice involved in the entrepreneurship journey, which I appreciated. And I'm sitting here listening and thinking, I have two young children, and I'm wondering, uh, can you give us a little bit of hope, or how, when you go to embark on this journey, guaranteed it's going to be a lot of work, but how have uh, is it feasible to do with a family, etc.? Is it feasible to prioritize all the things and do that in a way that is healthy and happy?
Yeah, and that's why I was saying the books of Robin Sharma. I read them a lot of times because it really helps me ground and really understand what's important in life. I think I was raised in an entrepreneurial family, and I got to see again what it is to be an entrepreneur, but I also got to appreciate things that I didn't like about that. Like I remember all of our dinners at home were talking about work. And that was something that again, I never felt that that was something good, that you bring always work at home. I created Touchland with my husband, so you can imagine. So one of the things that I try to, again, educate myself and contain myself is work. When I'm at home, I'm at home. And that's hard, but you need to educate yourself on, I send myself out to emails, but I don't bring work at home. And I am very strict about it of, yes, maybe there's a fire. I read myself a quote that I really like, which is success is not final, failure is not fatal. Because I've seen that no matter how many obstacles I have encountered, I'm here, I'm alive, everything is good. And it doesn't matter, like, again, how many successes, it's just a progress. You've never reached what success means, because it's simply a journey. I think there's definitely a point where you can be an entrepreneur and again, have a family and all that. Like I don't get to see my family so much because it's on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. And so, but when I am with them, I am with them. Like I go with my mother, travel, I do things like of course, I don't do the things that I did before Touchland. I used to be party a lot and all that. Those days are gone. But I try to take care of myself because it is very important to really have the time for like good conversation, having time for friends, being there for friends, being there for your family. Recently we went to Disney World with my family. Like, yes, that meant that I had to be until 5 a.m. working in emails, but it was worth it. And I think there's ways to do it, but you have to educate yourself on, say stop after you leave work, don't bring it at home, try to be present. I think it's the most important thing for entrepreneurs is when you're at work, be at work, but when you're with your family, be present. I think like my father was always like, one moment, I have a call. And I'm like, but we're having a dinner, like, can you stay here? And I think I always say, like, I cannot talk now. It doesn't, I mean, it's not fatal to say I'm going to call you tomorrow because I'm enjoying a dinner with my family. So I think it just takes a lot of strength and again, educate yourself on what's right. And that's why I think these books are very important. The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, because it's a very short book. You can read it literally in 2 hours, but I read it every 3 years to remind what really matters, because it's important. And I've been blessed enough that I can get to run my business with my husband, because I don't know how it would be if I did not have my husband joining this adventure, because for the goods and bads, he's next to me. We get to talk about things. We get to grow this business together. So I feel like I'm very blessed that I get to share that with my family. But it is something that you need to work on. Like, you cannot just leave it for tomorrow. You need to be present from day one.
Wonderful. Thank you for your question, Courtney. So we have time for one more quick question, and this one is from Justine. Justine, if you want to unmute yourself, or happy to read it out loud.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrea. This has been such a wonderful chat. I really appreciate you sharing your time and your experience and your advice so generously. So my question is, earlier you mentioned the cyclical nature of business. And so clearly you've had wonderful success and lots of wonderful growth. I'm wondering if you could talk about a time where maybe you had to scale things back or go through a reduction, and how was that for you, both personally, how did you manage that? And then also professionally, what were some of the things that were factors for you during that time?
Yeah, I think we've had many, I think when we had to pause our activity in Europe and relocate to the US, that was, again, very challenging, because it's like everything that you work on, you're gonna give it up, because again, we couldn't do both at the same time. So it was a time that it was very hard, because I feel like you need to scale down, repurpose the focus of the business, make sure that you have everything in place, and then kind of jump in the unknown again, which I think it was very scary. I think for us, as I said, trying to find through 1 year, knowing that you wanted to live to the US, but taking 1 year literally we used to go to so many investors. We traveled to Paris to meet with an investor, and we got there, and the investor said, no, we just invest in software. I'm like, but you had me come to Paris for the meeting. So it gets to a point that it's challenging. And I think to be able to, again, take a balcony time, restructure, refocus, I always say, it doesn't mean just because you change your way, you have to change your goal. Like, you can adjust the sales as you're a founder. There can be challenges, like when we had the supply chain challenge that we didn't have product for a year. Like, how do you keep team motivated? How do you keep team with hope? How do you kind of care about the relationships with retailers that you left empty the shelves for a year? You just have to navigate, and I always say, one day at a time, following your gut, following your principles and your values, and do the right thing, and hope that everything is gonna come out. And I feel very, very lucky that, again, I don't think many companies would be able to relaunch a brand after a year of no supply chain and be given a second chance with Ulta or Target. And I always say, when I talk to them, I said, all I can say is my appreciation and gratitude for giving me a second chance, because I know that for them it was challenging, and they still allowed me to come back and, okay, Andrea, we're going to try it again. You got to make sure that you don't disappoint us. And so you just have to do the right thing and live one day at a time, and think always short term and long term. Like, a lot of people just think of tomorrow, like try to solve problems for tomorrow. You have to have the capacity to take some balcony time and see, how do we solve for 6 months, 1 year, 3 years from now? Because this is super crucial, because you're going to be pulled to so many day-to-day issues that if you don't have the capacity to say what's going to propel my business medium and long term, that's what can get you in a hole that you cannot get out.
That's great advice. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you.
All righty. Thank you all for your questions. Andrea, once again, thank you for your valuable time. I'm going to go over to some quick key takeaways that we've learned from you. And obviously there's a lot more, but these were the ones that I was able to quickly put together. Build with principles and follow your gut. Take the step into the fear of the unknown. Be extremely convinced of your why. Lead while allowing everyone else to also have a voice within your company. Look at things from perspective. Use your gut and data. Be present. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. Thank you for your time, Andrea. We learned so much from your journey, and also just from the incredible pieces of advice that you have shared with us. And we will continue to support you and cheer for Touchland.
Thank you
and
so much.
Very excited for this journey. So thank you. And
thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you all, especially Ole. She touched my heart. So thank you so much. It made my day. But really, really appreciate everyone joining and wishing everyone the best. You can find me in my social medias if anytime you have any questions.